July 2020, and I'm here in front of the Overleaf Lodge, very close to the Fireside Motel. And as you look to the south, you can see 5 kites in the air on this beautiful evening where there's almost no wind and the ocean is almost like a lake. And it's like that a lot during the summer. The 804 Trail, as we know it today, was created in the late 80s and the early 90s, and it's an Oregon state park. And the nice, level, smooth trail that we go along today was created about 30 years ago. Going way, way back in time, of course, it didn't look like this during the days of the Indians 200 plus years ago, but they used this, and they walked along this path between where they lived and their fishing grounds and where they ate and where they lived during the summer. When white man came here, and the genesis of the naming of the trail, this was actually County Road 804. Before there was any other type of transportation method along the coast, this was the primary path that they used to get from Waldport to Yachats and then 8 miles up the Yachats River. So the total road length from Waldport, which you can see in the distance, to the Forks, which is 8 miles up the Yachats River, was about 16 miles. And the first 7 miles of it was along the beach. So you could not do that during high tide. You had to time your travel. And you came along the sand in a horse and buggy, or maybe in a car by the time you got to the early 1900s. And this is how you made it into Yachats. The trail that we're walking today, in parts, is where that original county road was, but now is a walking path. And there's other areas where we think the road used to be back when cars and buggies went along here. For example, right down here is, I think, where the original road used to be. And it's evidenced by a clear eroded area that's fairly wide. I believe this is where the cars actually used to travel. But today, we walk along what the state parks built, like I said, 30 years ago. You can see other areas here where it's nice and clear over here to the east. And this was all had something to do with the county road back in the day. In the 1920s and 30s, the county and the state built a new road, which is approximately where Highway 101 is today. It was first a county road and then a state highway by the mid-1930s. At that time, the public stopped using County Road 804, and it had not been used since the 1920s and 30s. So it became just a footpath that was much less than what you see today. And so it fell into disuse. They didn't even know it still existed. Sometime in the late 70s and early 80s, some local people who ended up being the friends of the 804 Trail determined that legally it still was here. North of Yachats, where we're walking today, was not a big deal because there were not any houses in the way. But south of here, south about a quarter mile, there were about 25 houses that were right in the middle of the county road. There were people at the time that wanted those 25 houses removed because legally the road still existed. The county and the city had not done their homework when they created the subdivision plats where all those houses were built. There was a group of people that wanted those 25 or so houses removed, and you can imagine that it created a lot of stress on those folks that own those houses. There are a number of people who had strokes or heart attacks and passed away during that time, and those were attributed to the stress created because they thought they would lose their homes. Eventually, calmer minds prevailed, and the city, the county, and title companies got together and agreed to pay a certain amount of money to fund better access to the ocean and better access to what we call the 804 Trail today. Eventually, they vacated the road, allowed those houses to stay where they were, and this money was paid by the different entities to create better access. And we have what we call the 804 Trail today. The trail goes all the way into town, and the Yachats River Road is the most southerly 8 miles of County Road 804, and it is in the original location of the 804. But we get to enjoy this road or trail today because of the folks who persisted in making sure that this remained as a trail for pedestrian traffic we all love and enjoy, and will do so forever.